So I wanted to make a video to talk about my experience with ADHD medication and specifically Ritalin. Some of you may know me. I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for greatest memory twice. I've run several successful companies, including a popular PR agency in Buffalo, New York. But I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia when I was a kid and had terrible grades and whatnot. So a lot of people are curious about that story. I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old, which is kind of old by today's standards. But remember, I'm a Gen Xer. I won't say how old I am. My son thinks I'm older than Jesus.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
In those days, ADHD was still incredibly controversial. I mean, it's controversial today, but in those days it was kind of crazy. It was like the Wild West. There were stories of therapists taking kickbacks and downright bribes and everything for diagnosing people. Schools were getting more and more funding, and there was incentive problems, but more than that, the medication was it just didn't seem to be figured out at that time. There were all sorts of horror stories of kids being over medicated and ruining their lives and stuff. So at the time, I decided to wait. And maybe I waited a little too long because after I waited for a bit and I actually tried some medication, I found that it could fit into my plans. I want to make this video to kind of tell anybody who's in a similar situation, what worked for me. I'm not a doctor, but I am a well-known brain trainer, so I've honed my brain and I can kind of tell, I believe, when it's functioning really well and when I'm kind of off my game, and how medication, in my case, affected that. When I first started taking Ritalin, it was basically a test. I tested it for about a week, and my immediate response was that I was really jittery. Like, I was way overreacting to it, and I thought I was having some side effects. But after stopping it for a little while and then going back to my doctor, he actually said that with this kind of medication, you can't really know for sure until you're taking it for 30 days. The body reacts to things in different ways. You can't know if it's an allergic reaction or if it's just something that's going to go away. So I decided to take the plunge, and I tried it for a full month, and he was right. The side effect I was feeling, where I was super jittery, I was having a lot of difficulty sleeping, but I'd have highs and lows with my energy, all of that kind of leveled itself out. One of the first things I noticed when the drug started working well is that there was actually a sense of calm. And this might confuse a lot of people if you don't have ADHD, because you think, what, you're literally taking an amphetamine that's related to methamphetamines even, and it's making you feel more relaxed. How does that work? Well, when you're walking around on a regular basis as an ADD person, your brain is craving stimulation. So you feel a little agitated, like on edge a little bit sometimes, unless you're doing brain hacks and meditation and stuff, which have helped me tremendously. But when you take Ritalin or coffee or something like that, it stimulates you enough to kind of feed that beast, and your brain just relaxes. I've had the experience lots of times where I couldn't sleep, but I just would drink a half a cup of coffee and I would feel so calm and relaxed I'd go right to sleep. So sometimes stimulating can also relax. But there's another side to this. I found that when I was taking the drug on a regular basis, as per doctor's recommendations, I was starting to build up kind of a tolerance to it. And this happened within a couple of weeks. It just did not have the effect that it used to do. And then I was back to, same old. So I don't know if anybody else has had the same experience. Please, add your thoughts in comments in the bottom. I'd love to have a discussion more about this, because I feel so many people with ADD, they're really not talking about this subject specifically, or if you are, I haven't seen it. One of the things that I decided to do was take it intermittently, and I'm not doing this without the doctor's permission or anything. I know usual prescriptions are every day, but I take it maybe 3 times a week or something like that, kind of in my busy peak period, and then the rest of the week I have brain hacks and other mechanisms that keep me on track and keep me focused. This format really works for me, so I strongly encourage you, if you're in the same boat, to not take the first plan that's presented to you. Have a little flexibility. 3-4 times a week is fantastic for me. I'm very productive during that time, but there's a couple of interesting side effects that I didn't expect. So one of the things that I do when I'm, say, cleaning or doing some construction or working or something is I'll often have music on in the background, or I'll have like a podcast or some sort of interview or something that I'm listening to, and I find this really exciting. And what that does is it stimulates the brain a little bit so that I can kind of feed that beast and then calm down a little bit, and I can be much more productive. I found when I take Ritalin sometimes and then I try to do that same very common experience that a lot of people have, it feels overwhelming, and it almost felt nauseous the first time, and I didn't know why. So if you're experiencing that, maybe that might be the reason. Is I think the Ritalin was giving me the stimulation that I needed, and anything more was feeling overwhelming. One big thing about this pill is that it helps you get shit done. There is no doubt about it. When you take it, you're able to be much more productive, and if you're falling behind on some of your work, it really helps to catch up. It is not any better than the focus burst technique that I teach. I think if you're not familiar with that, there's a focus method I developed in the 90s that really helped thousands of students, and it has to do with using interval training, a lot like a boxer, but you're using your brain that way. So if you're interested, find out more on brainhackers.com, or you can hit me up in the comments and we'll talk about it. I'll probably do a few videos on that. The brain training methods really do work, but you have to do them. You have to decide to wake up and turn on your system and follow the rules, and sometimes it's tough. So I gotta admit, if you're a little lazy, or if it's one of those days where you've got to be focused during something boring like a lecture or a meeting or something, then the Ritalin really makes a big difference. Along these lines, another interesting side effect I found when taking the drug regularly was relaxation. And I think it's not for the reasons that I mentioned before, where you take a stimulant and it relaxes an ADD person. I just think it's because I have less things on my to-do list, and you get more stuff done and you're less stressed. So if you're in that situation, think, am I stressed because I can't focus? Am I stressed because of circumstances, or am I stressed just because I'm not getting enough done, and figure out how to be more productive? This doesn't have to be the only way that you can do it, but you can get that effect. Now, let me be clear. Do not confuse focus and stimulation. Stimulation, in this case, I'm talking about Ritalin or any sort of stimulating medication. That sort of feeling helps you feel a little bit more alert and a little bit more awake, and it helps you get more done, but it's still just as easy to procrastinate. It's just as easy to come up with reasons why not to do something. You still need motivation in your life if you're going to accomplish your tasks. So if you see a big task list and you're not motivated, taking Ritalin won't help. You'll just be very productively not motivated. One interesting side effect I found is that when I'm on Ritalin, and I haven't taken it for a while, so the effect is really strong, I have a lot of difficulty meditating, and I have a meditation practice that I do every day that has helped me tremendously. And I can still meditate. I mean, obviously you still can at any time. You can sit down, close your eyes, and you can calm your mind, but I can't get down to the levels of meditation that I'm used to just getting there really quickly after doing it for like 30 years. So if you are doing like a yoga practice or a meditation practice or something, keep that in mind. For me personally, I didn't notice any addictive qualities to it. When I was off of it, I didn't crave going back on it. You could say accomplishing things and being productive could be a little addictive, but again, there's a lot of brain hacks to accomplish that. And by the way, if you're curious about brain hacks, I wrote a fantastic book called Brain Hacker, and it has 55 different hacks in there on how to improve your memory, speed reading, focus, IQ, sleep better, and yes, deal with ADHD. And it's also got my story of how I went from ADHD and dyslexia as a kid to Guinness World Record holder and business owner. So take your brain training to the next level and pick up a copy of Brain Hacker today. The link will be in the comments. So my summary is that I actually think I was right to avoid medication in the beginning, because I learned a lot of brain hacks and developed brain hacks, and I hopefully helped a lot of people doing that. But I think I was a little pig-headed in how long it took before I actually looked at medication as an option. I didn't realize that it didn't have to be an all or nothing. I could do an occasional medication just to give me a boost sometimes. And looking back, there were a lot of times where I could have, used more focused and used that ability, especially when I was still struggling without, mastering some of these brain hacks at the same time. So in an ideal world, what I think people should do is you can take medication as needed. You definitely have to cope. You got to, keep a job. You got to focus. You got to get those grades, all that stuff. but at the same time, don't use it as a crutch. Learn how your brain works, learn brain hacks, learn brain training. I've got a number of courses on brainhackers.com, along with 1,000 other experts who have contributed their brain hacks, and maybe if you join, you can actually contribute some brain hacks too. I'd love to see you there. If you have any questions, I'll respond to everything in the comments. I hope this has helped you, and learning a bit about my journey has, maybe made your journey a little bit easier. Till next time.